The worst news of Keir Starmer's whole career has literally arrived. I realize it sounds absurd, but his choices have resulted in arguably the largest change in his 4 months in charge, and things are not looking good for him at all. We will now go over the entire story and all of the most recent news from across the nation, but first please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and join our rapidly expanding community. Just a quick one to say we have new Stuck Farmer t-shirts available on our store. Go grab them now. They are available at british.com or check the link in the description. The Conservatives have taken a 2-point poll lead over Karma's Labour Party in Kemi Bardak's first week as leader. The new Tory leader has taken the party to 29% of the vote according to pollsters, more in common with Labour behind on just 27%. It is the highest rating for the Conservatives since February. It marks a remarkable fall from grace for Labour, which in July was elected to power in a landslide victory over Rishi Sunak. Conservatives then Labour won a 174-seat majority on 34% of the vote, while the Tories suffered their worst election defeat in history. But as the fallout from Rachel Reeves's historic £40 billion tax grab grows, Labour's poll rating has continued to fall, and just days after succeeding Mr. Sunak as Tory leader, Miss Bardak is enjoying a bounce. Her net approval rating sits at -3 compared with Keir on -25 points. However, just 1 in 3 people say they are familiar with Miss Bardak. More in common found it is just the latest poll to show a boost for Miss Bach and the Conservatives since she beat Robert Genrick in the contest to replace Mr. Sunak. It comes as Saki's government faces a morning backlash over the budget's inheritance tax rate on farmers and the increase in employer contribution to national insurance. Later this month, thousands of farmers will travel to London to demonstrate against the government's proposed inheritance tax extension, claiming it will jeopardise food security in the UK and force family farms to close. While Britain's largest business organisations have accused the government of betraying them with budget plans to raise employer national insurance contributions from 13.8% to 15% despite a manifesto pledge not to raise taxes for working people, the party has been accused of traumatizing farmers with the tax grab that will require them to pay 20% of tax on inherited agricultural assets worth more than $1 million starting in April 2026. Most of the increase will be transferred to employees in the form of lower salaries elsewhere. In the survey, Nigel Farage's change with 19% of the vote, up from 18% at the start of November, the UK continued to garner support. Meanwhile, the Liberal Democrats lost ground, going from 14% to 11% of the vote, while the Green Party was steady at 8%. Mr. Try said that rather than using the current first-pass system, the distribution of support made the UK appear more like a continental nation with a proportional representational voting system. The Post, please share your ideas with me in the comments section of another news article. Many small and medium-sized farms may face certain death sentences as a result of Labour's proposed revisions to the inheritance tax. Despite government guarantees that small farms won't be impacted, new research from the Countryland and Business Association, CLA, indicates that tax reforms could completely wipe off agricultural income, fostering stagnation and, in many cases, land sales must be forced to pay taxes. According to the model, a typical 200-acre arable farm in England owned by an individual with an expected annual profit of £27,300 would face an IHT tax bill of £427,000 in the event of a death. If the death occurred over a 10-year period, the farm would have to allocate 159% of its profit annually to pay the tax bill. In order to meet this bill, successors could be forced to sell 20% of their land, or about 40 acres, making their farm unviable. This sale would also be subject to Labour's capital gains tax raid, which would be a last straw for farmers who already had to divide up land that may have been in their family for generations. This follows former Labour advisor John Mernon's statement that we don't need small farmers and that we can treat farmers the same way Thatcher treated miners. McCann's position has come under heavy fire online, with many arguing that it emphasizes Labour's attack on farmers as an ideological assault motivated by the politics of envious ignorance, vindictiveness, and egregious idiocy rather than as a necessary money-raising measure. According to Gavin Lane, Deputy President of the Countryland and Business Association, CLA, the government either doesn't understand the nature of rural enterprises or isn't telling the public the full implications of these policies. Instead of constantly attempting to ignore our opinions while framing this as a tax on the wealthy, I'd prefer to think it's the latter and that they are willing to listen to us. Although the modeling presents a somewhat less dire scenario for married farming couples who are eligible for additional tax breaks, the reality is that ordinary family farms will be hit just as hard. If it is feasible, asking farms to use their income to pay a massive capital tax bill over 10 years will jeopardize future investment and business viability. Director of Policy and Advice Judith Hammondat. According to CLA, your gains would be eliminated as soon as you reach the 250 acres barrier. According to DEFRA data, over 50% of Calories farms are larger than 250 acres, so this will truly affect a large number of people. Ms. Hammond also brought attention to the Chancellor's mistaken belief that the majority of farms would not be impacted because they could receive additional relief because they were married couples. These reliefs do not cover personal hardships, and they do not apply to widows or those who pass away within 7 years, so our members are worried about dying because nobody can predict when they will pass away. Tim Boner, the chief executive of the rural lobby group The Countryside Alliance, stated that elderly people across the nation are sitting in farmhouses, utterly terrified that their deaths will mark the end of generations of their family farming their land. I know some of them, and I cannot stress the mental anguish this is causing. I firmly believe in conspiracy theories, and I do not think Rachel Reeves has intentionally been cruel. There must be ways to address the avoidance of inheritance tax through agricultural property relief without penalizing innocent farmers. However, the figures they used in the modeling are actually a conservative estimate because they omit factors like diversified income, farm stores, possibilities for farm stock growth, or vacation lets, all of which would increase a farm's value by about 69% in England. This modeling comes as the government and the National Farmers Union continue their dispute, with the latter claiming that only 25% of farmers will be impacted and that they will all be wealthy. However, the CLA pointed out that their modeling is based on actual farms throughout England, while the Treasury figure comes from an analysis of claims under the APR tax scheme. Critics have also targeted the paltry amount of money, arguing that the scheme will raise $500 million a year by 2030, which is enough to fund the NHS for 1 day and 5 hours of work. The CLA contends that the figure is still essential in rebuilding the country's finances after the Conservatives left a £22 billion black hole, and thousands of farmers are scheduled to protest the Chancellor's budget on November 19. Please share your thoughts about the topics we covered in today's video in the comments box below. If you haven't already, please make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more British political news. Thank you, and goodbye.